Mr. Sandman,
Yes?
bring us a dream. Give him a pair of eyes with a come hither gleam. Mr. Sandman, someone to hold. Someone to hold would be so peachy before we're too old. So please turn on your magic beam. Mr. Sandman, bring us, please, 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 Mr. Sandman, bring us a dream.
The one, the only, Corinne, the Occult Priestess Wilson. What's going on, Corinne?
Happy IMBOLG, my witches. Most blessed tidings as we go from darkness to light.
Pretty important day today. As you said, the IMBOLG pagan holiday, which we've all got, all three of us here. We've got candles lit. I've got some incense burning. I've got all my crystals. So what are we going to get into tonight?
So first we're just going to talk a little bit about IMBOLG and the time of year it is. According to the pagan calendar, an older calendar than the one we're used to using with these current holidays. So Catholics will know Saint Bridget, and pagans know her as Breed or Bride or Bridget, and she is the bringer of the light. So tonight, in ritual form, which means we cast a protective circle, we take, well, this is what I've always done, we take a corn dolly, and that represents the bride, and we take like a cow horn, and that represents the groom, and we put them together in a basket, and it's like putting our hopes and dreams together in a romantic setting so that they can fertilize each other, the masculine and feminine. Isn't that beautiful?
Absolutely. So when did this tradition, the tradition of this specific holiday, when is the earliest mentions of this in history?
I think mostly you'll find it among our Druid friends and the Celtics, which people mispronounce as Celtics because of, I think, baseball or football.
The basketball, yeah, Boston's NBA team, yeah.
Thank you. So yes, it's the Celtic tradition. Back to, and of course that goes to much older traditions, but those are rumors.
Now, okay, I know who the Celtics are. I'm not very familiar with where the Druids are from, geographically.
Well, that would be the British Isles, my friend. So that includes all three of those continents. And not to get them confused with the Nordic tradition, a much more colder tradition, more about war and, difficult things. So we're talking about more of the fairy tradition of the Druids in Avalon.
Right. Okay. Yeah, the Norse.
The gods are different. And
right.
When you study history from a pagan perspective, you're not studying history, you're studying cultures and people, and that leads you straight to the doorway of the gods. And then if you are psychic or have any kind of talent in that way, then you can start a conversation with these living presences.
You're going to do a brain experiment.
Let's just call it an exercise in consciousness.
An exercise in consciousness. Now, Corinne, real quick, are you going to be at the Conscious Life Expo this year?
Yes, I have been invited with the On-Stellar crew.
Oh, that's right. You're on On-Stellar, right? Occult Priestess?
Yes, I am. Please friend me and look at all the blogs I've put on there. They're quite, we'll see, like Chanter, I'll get in the boat with Chanter and say, I do not ever accept the official story.
This is Shift Happens. I'm your host, Gigi, along with my co-host, Darren McClure, and we are here tonight joined by Corinne, the Occult Priestess. Good deal. So now, Corinne, let's get back. Unless you want to save it for later, I'm pretty ready to get this boogie on right now. What do you say?
I'm always ready to boogie, man.
All right.
So we're going to start with, we started talking about paganism and Wicca with IMBOLG, and that's where we're going to start with you, Gigi. And Gigi, you are going to be our little voodoo doll, but
so
anyone
I'm basically
can do
the
this.
lab rat for this
bunny.
experiment.
You're a lab bunny.
A
remember?
lab bunny, that's right. My name is Gigi Rabbit after all, isn't it?
So I'm Alice, and you're the rabbit.
So where's the hole?
In your mind.
Perfect. Actually, that actually makes sense. Okay.
Of course it does. I said it.
All right.
So here we are. We're going to use you as the map, and I'm going to ask you to do certain things, and anyone can follow along. This is totally harmless and safe and a little silly, which is great because it's actually going to set you up for, hopefully, for communication later on a more psychic bridge, okay?
All right.
So I'm going to give you a tour of your mind, but like in paganism, the teachings start in the body first. Okay, so we start at square one. The left side of the body, so become aware of your left side of the body. You can look at your left hand.
Okay.
Okay, so the left side of the body is feminine. And this shows up in graphic language as the color black. The right side of the body is masculine, and you can look at your right hand.
Wait, hold on. Should I have my eyes open and actually look at my right hand, or just
For
think
now,
about
because
my
we're
right
in
hand?
the body, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we're on Earth in our beautiful bodies.
Okay.
And so we look at the right hand, and we understand that that is masculine and shows up as the color white.
Ah, this makes sense already.
Right. So the feminine is black, receptive. She receives. Right? Like the moon. This is also equating to the moon and many other feminine things throughout nature, as paganism teaches. And then the right side, we have the most beautiful masculine sun.
Right.
So we have the moon and the sun. But what I'm explaining to you through this dazzling white and black is what is known as the Tao. And that's spelled T as in Tom, A-O. But we pronounce it Tao with a D. So you've seen the yin and yang symbol?
Yeah, well, I always pronounced it as Tao, but anyway, yeah.
I understand, Westerner. I'm correcting. So therefore, we have the Tao that cannot be explained. Correct?
Right.
So the Tao that cannot be explained is actually not black or white. It is four. So if you can bring up the Tao in your mind at this point or on your computer screen, we have a paisley on the left and a paisley on the right, and both paisleys have the opposite color within them as a dot. Is that correct?
I'll take your word for it, yeah.
All right, so I'm already getting too complicated. So we have the left side of receptivity, the moon, the feminine. The right side of projection, action, fire, the masculine, the sun.
That makes sense, right? Yeah.
I think it does.
Yeah. I'm going to have to ask you about the four part, but keep going.
Well, that's too advanced right now, so let's not even go there.
Yeah, let's just keep going, yeah.
So we have these two sides of the actual physical body explained energetically through symbology and, well, color and absence of color, don't we?
Yeah.
So I've just explained to you that your body, who is genetically male, okay, your body, genetically male, has a feminine side and a masculine side.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So you're with me on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Wonderful. Okay, so now we're going to go up into the mind. And I don't really like to call it the brain because they are different things. The mind denotes consciousness.
Right.
The brain denotes a piece of flesh.
Right.
You understand the difference?
Yeah, so we're basically talking about consciousness, really.
In the mind, because consciousness resides outside of the mind as well.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So in your particular mind, in particular, Mr. Rabbit, I would like you to close your eyes at this point, and anyone who would like to follow along.
Oh, they've been closed for the last 2 minutes, but yeah.
Okay. So we go back into where I believe it's the cortex, but we go back and put your fingers, you know where they plugged people into the Matrix in the movie, right at the nape of the neck, a little above that. Put fingers there for me. I don't care which hand you use. But this is a tactile experience.
Just one finger or two? Or?
It doesn't matter. I've got two fingers there.
All right, well, I'll put two.
Okay. This is where the left and the right switch because we're going into a mental realm. We're going out of the physical animal realm of consensual reality, of everyday workaday bank world, and we're going above that into the realm of the mind, consciousness. So it switches. The left side of your brain is masculine. The right side, okay, you can put your fingers on either side of your head. The right side is feminine. So you can like tap your head on the left and say masculine and tap your hand on the right and say feminine. So I'm telling you, mentally in your mind, you are what we call a hermaphrodite. Obviously, that's nothing to do with your sexual physical parts.
Right.
So hermaphrodite is a combination word of Hermes and Aphrodite. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Really? You'd heard that before?
Yeah, trust me. After living with Cortana for a year, yeah.
Wonderful. Most people do not know this.
Yeah.
So we have the mental hermaphrodite, which Hermes, Aphrodite, masculine and feminine. Well, that has been kind of outlined in some psychology and New Age books. What is not really talked about much is what comes in between the middle of those two things. So I would like to see you to see. I know that you have a woman in your head. Pretty much every man has a woman in their head. And she lives in that right side of the brain. And we have a man in our head, and he lives in that left side of the brain. And these people either get along or they don't. When they get along, the third eye opens. Because the third eye is the child between them. Does that make sense?
It does. I definitely know the girl on the right side.
I know you know her. You know her well.
You know what's really funny is we just talked for the first time in a long time yesterday, and yeah, kind of crazy that you're bringing that up right now. But
so you're equating. No, I didn't do that. You did that. This is your mind. So therefore, you equate your inner female with a living, breathing female on the planet.
Yeah, but I'm not sure who the male is.
But it's not necessary that you have created a tulpa of this woman. Understand, a thought form. Her soul is sovereign, and she is who she is, and she might visit you in your head. But the woman that you came in with, you were born with. And the man and the woman I came in with, I was born with. Now, my feminine side has become my personal identity, my ego, understand? And my masculine is like the dark side of the moon, but I nurture him and I've healed him. And now I have a sun and a moon that are healed. And my third eye is not just open, it's a portal. That's my jump room. Oh, you're thinking.
Yeah, no, I'm very what's the word? Entranced.
Well, let me pick it
almost.
up. So let me talk
You
about
have
the side of
you
the
have
brain.
us in a meditative state.
Yeah,
Priestess.
I'm very this is a powerful thing that we're doing here.
It usually is when I come on. It's trippy. I love tripping people out. I'm the Mad Hatter on Mercury.
I would have to agree. Yeah, this is but yeah, please keep going.
Okay, great.
I'm on
so
board here.
You've got your left side masculine brain, and let's praise him. Thank goodness for him. We wouldn't have survived without him. He's the one who said, "Ooh, fire good."
Right.
Okay, fire good. The left brain is known as the scientific side, the side also of the ego filter. The ego is okay when it's healthy. So the ego will say, please go brush your teeth. Please pay your bills. Please take out your garbage. The ego
Right.
keeps us protected in a consensual reality. Does that make sense?
It does.
Makes sense.
It actually makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
But I am
When the ego is sick, it basically, in the end, believes it's God. It has become God. That is the beast of the ego. When it is fully compromised, when it has gone full dark side, when it has sold itself, that's when you don't have a person anymore. You have a beast.
Well, and one thing, hopefully this doesn't interrupt this, is, especially when I followed the teachings of Ram Dass or James Redfield and the Celestine Prophecy books, more or less they kind of, the idea was let go of the ego, right? But then...
Well, it's about healing the ego, and most Westerners do not have the correct perspective on even what the word itself means. And that's why I'm only giving you the correct perspective, that it is meant to protect us. It is a defense mechanism. So we've got the scientific logical mind. The logical mind says, I'm not going to go into the lion's den because I will be eaten. And that is the ego, a superhero, okay? And we need it to survive in this world. But when it's unhealthy, my point was, it becomes detached from God, love, and light. And when it becomes divorced from all of those beautiful things, it transforms into a monster.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, that monster might not look like a monster, but internally, and psychics can see this, there's no soul there. It's darkness. It's an absence of light. Understand, it's a separation from God.
Absolutely.
Now, the feminine side of the brain and the mind, the consciousness, is known as more of the metaphysical side, the artist, the creator. And what does metaphysical mean, High Priestess? Well, meta means beyond. And what does that mean, metaphysical? Beyond the physical. So right there, I am lining up every scientific researcher, giving them a cigar, and saying, shoot, because anything in the fourth dimension cannot be researched through science and measurement.
I agree.
And that's where the feminine is impending upon our society in general.
Yes.
It's coming. I can see the feminine coming, and we've seen it in the mass media, and she's kind of Nazi-like and very serious and scary.
They're kind of stern at the moment, but eventually I think they're going to get to their spot, right?
What does that matter? I'm talking about the now.
Well, okay, yeah.
Now, we are in this now. So we see the feminine monster. I can see her coming anyway, and she's not pretty either. So we call this an inverted Mars or an inverted Venus. But both gender sexes in a physical body can be overtaken by what would be the beast. Understand that? So going back to the light, let's get back into that. The mind of the masculine, when it is romancing the mind of the feminine, they become the power couple that has the baby of the third eye. And if you are a spiritual person, if you are striving to have a personal relationship with something above you that loves you more than you can imagine, whatever brought you here, if you can try to get in touch with that, then you will have your jump room. You won't just have a third eye that tells you, oh, stay away from that person, or that person's good, or discernment, the pearl of discernment. You will go beyond that into being able to astral project out of the subconscious, out of the fourth dimension, and into heaven, into the fifth dimension and beyond. So the next topic we're going to talk about tonight is the fourth dimension, because anyone who's starting to get into spirituality or starting to poke at the mysteries is going to first reach that level, because it's the first level we all reach. It's the first level there. Right above our waking state is the fourth dimension. And I call it the Twilight Zone, and so did the Druids, those who know about the fairy realm. We call it the Twilight Zone. It's an in-between time and an in-between space. Now, there's many aspects of it, but it's also where dead people who cannot get into heaven because they are too heavy, they're too burdened, they're not light enough, they don't have enough light, they get stuck in this place. And it is stuck, and it's called the Bardo. And for most of us ever remember, even within time, we have had this dimension of the Bardo, and that's where you go when you die and you had a terrible life and you have to reincarnate and try to learn better next time. Does all this make sense?
Yeah, actually. And Okay. So wait a
So
minute.
what I found with the New Age is that we go from third dimensional reality science Earth to fifth dimension heaven. And I'm like, what happened to the Bardo? What happened to sleep paralysis? What happened to alien abductions and anal probes? Where is all that? What happened to LSD and brainwashing and psychiatry in general? Because as a pagan, I learned even as a teenager, I did a little report on it, got an A+, about the burning times. And the burning times are in the medieval ages where the women, the healers, the shamans, those who you went to when you had a problem were mostly genocided and killed. And that made way for the Western paradigm to take over all the health industry. And I do know that a lot of our pills that we take nowadays came straight from voodoo. And so I see a lot of black magic. Looking at this as an occultist, as a woman beyond time, above a chessboard, I can see all the negativity play out. And that's how I see it. It's all a fourth dimensional spiritual warfare. And light workers are targeted individuals. So I am related, big announcement, I am related to Senator John Glenn. He is my grandmother's brother. Senator John Glenn was also an astronaut. It is my conjecture and my belief that he and the others were brainwashed as targeted individuals to tell the story that they went to the moon. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. Go ahead and talk.
I could not agree more because scientifically it's impossible for us to have gone there back at the time. And, one thing you mentioned earlier, about back, whether it was the Montauk Project. Yeah, stuff like that. If people don't think that's real, I mean...
Hashtag Project Paperclip. That's where it all started. We can prove Project Paperclip, where the Nazis were brought over to help brainwash through Disney and other media the entire United States. And it's going on in England too. We're focused on USA because that's where we're from.
And the Mockingbird media is telling us all about Venezuela, but they're not saying a thing about France. Have you seen what's happening in the streets for the last 11 weeks in a row?
I want to tell you something really crazy.
Both sides going, wait a minute, globalism isn't going to help.
Speaking about France, the last time that I lived on this planet, incarnated, was during the French Revolution. And so I am having so many weirdo flashbacks watching France explode. I was warned that this would happen, and I understand it on a higher level. And we're trying not to have the New World Order take over. But at the same time, this is all, I don't know if you can hang with this, but this is all God's plan, and it's all a play to grow the soul.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing before it escapes my mind, we got to go to break in a couple of minutes. Is when it comes back to these what I can only describe as unbelievably cruel psychedelic studies, along with
on housewives, no less.
Along with the electroshock therapy that they did. There is a movie. I think it's on Hulu.
Non-consensual, by the way. Okay.
Yes.
And I completely didn't understand what was going on and wonder what they did to our soldiers. They came back so broken.
Exactly.
And in the Manchurian Candidate film, you can see them breaking the soldiers in Iraq in a private cave. They're psychologically breaking them down.
Yeah, but here's the... but what I wanted to share with the audience is there is a movie called Shutter Island, with Leonardo DiCaprio and what's his name, and it's a perfect example of how these people got sucked into the Montauk programs and anything like that, and what happens to the people that come out of them or really never come out of those.
And it's important that we know this is fourth dimensional. These people against their will are taking vows, just like with old Masons in the past lives. We took vows, and then our soul got stuck in a vow. So this goes with bloodlines too, and that's why it's important that I say I'm related to Senator John Glenn, because it was a secret adoption, and nobody knows this. But it messed up my bloodline. It's been messed up for a long time, and there are others like me who are also talking about the bloodline issues, and it's not about DNA. Your soul chose to be born into a family for one reason or another, and usually it's money, or you're born into it to clean it up, like karmically clean that bloodline, heal the alcoholism, heal the abuse. When you don't re-abuse, then it stops in the bloodline completely.
But like, if Cortana were here right now, she would cut me off right now and be like, no, the ego is needed at times. And
there's a difference between being egoic, like protecting yourself as a defense mechanism, and having vanity. So these are all,
right,
specific things.
Corinne does private sessions. Just get in touch with her on Twitter at the Occult Priestess, and she'll do live phone sessions with you. That's kind of one of her main gigs. Now, all right, so we're halfway through the show. Okay.
I like to finish up where I was, and then we'll do a new direction.
All right, yes. All right.
Okay, couple quotes. In a world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So we're talking about, the third eye, the baby between the masculine and the feminine. Be ye single-eyed. And we just did the dynamics of the Tao relating the body, brain, and the pineal. The third eye is known as the pineal gland. Now, we get to the fourth dimension. So your subconscious, Gigi, and not to single you out, you're just the host. Many of us had very, very difficult childhoods. I had a very difficult childhood. I survived physical battering, abuse, being beaten. And I also survived 19 years of haunting from the boogeyman, I call him, but he's the shadow man, as seen in recent films. I'm also in the film by Rodney Asher, the director of Room 237, and the film is called The Nightmare, and it is all about the phenomenon of sleep paralysis, which was a phenomenon way before we had alien abduction. So it is my conjecture that alien abduction is just a new form, a new costume of sleep paralysis. I'm a very ancient soul, and I saw what was really there, the boogeyman. And then maybe newer souls, or maybe people not as psychic as I am, I don't know what the difference is yet, but they are seeing space monsters. Greys, mostly. And right. I can take that back to Aleister Crowley and cover a bunch of ground, but I won't, because that's all out there in my blogs, The Occultist in the Corner. So when we get to the fourth dimension, we are entering the Twilight Zone, the shadow realm. And this is where psychology ends. So you have already dealt with your overbearing mother, your childhood, your sick patterns that you've learned from your society. You have cleaned all of these things out. You have healed these things, which I have a map of. I have videos about. Occult Priestess, just Google me, psychology. And I'm on YouTube and Vimeo now. So all of these teachings are out there for you in your own time. But once you learn about your family of origin, your patterns, and what messed you up, basically, you heal that. And I did mine mostly through 12-step, and healing codependency was my big problem. But I was still haunted, right? I still had a boogeyman. I still had problems. And I was like, why am I being haunted? What's wrong with me? I love God. I'm a good person. Why am I attracting all this negative darkness? And it's because I was a targeted individual of the fourth dimension. And many light workers. I've been counseling people for almost 30 years now. So I've been in the realm of the psyche and the soul much more than I've been in 3D reality throughout my lifetime. I am an expert. I've never met anyone like me. So once we get to the shadow realm, then you got to start looking into, you can look into Carl Jung's shadow, which is merely a psychological shadow of your past and your issues, and sometimes past life karma. But we get beyond that into the shadow realm. This is where some people go when they dream, when they're astral projecting. This realm can be all dead and all dark, and we call that the bardo. And I believe the Catholic Church used to call that the guff, is the old term for it. I forget what the newer term is, but the guff, G-U-F-F. And so when we get to that dark space there, I was basically born there. I spoke with an amazing psychic, Magenta Pixie, and she said, you have never been in the third dimension. Your consciousness has never been all the way here on Earth. And I've figured out why recently, but that's the way it is, and many psychics are this way. I'm not unique in that. However, you can get haunted, especially if your bloodline is what we call cursed. And I think this is so antiquated and out of date, but the fourth dimension is where spiritual warfare happens. You can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't measure it, you can't science it. It is metaphysical. And therefore, I think we lose half the audience at least at this point. So I'm not sure what that glitch is, except for I can only think that it's a belief in God versus a non-belief in God. Do you know what the glitch is? Why we can't get past into the fourth dimension easily from the third?
Well, I don't know if this is the glitch in itself, but I can say that I probably speak for a lot of people listening when you say 4D, because when you talk to somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson, for example. He will say, yeah, we live in 4 dimensions. There's the first 3, but the 4th dimension is time. But when you say 4D, you're talking about something else, aren't you? And I think
he's talking about an agenda about time, and he's also a scientist, so he believes that you are a random mistake of the universe and that you have no soul.
Honestly, I think he knows a lot more than he's
They all
led
do.
on
What
to
you
believe.
don't understand is they're
He's
part
just
of the
being-
Dark Alliance.
Yeah, he's part of the
fourth-dimensional
alliance,
problem.
and he's only going to say what he's allowed to say, right? So,
Well, I don't. That's no integrity to me, and that's actually evil to me. If you're spreading lies, then what else do we call it?
It definitely, at the very least, it is a massive disservice because he has a huge following and so many people are believing
That's how
what
it's
he's saying.
engineered, and that's why we
And
call it social
you know
engineering,
what was
and that's
the
why
best-
we need to bridge the new age with conspiracy.
Here's one of the best things I've ever seen was just real quick. Neil deGrasse Tyson was on Stephen Colbert's show last year in 2018. Remember
Another
that
famous show.
Remember that one that long cigar-shaped object that came interstellar?
You mean Freud's joke?
Even say anything afterwards. Like he just got checkmated.
Well, that's
basically.
going to keep happening. Checkmate.
Yeah, and but I'm surprised.
And so there's a scientist in the audience, and he's like, I don't believe that. I think people have a soul. And I'm with you, because actually science comes from the great bastard child of the mystery schools. Science comes from alchemy, the Hermetic teachings. So there is a pure essence in there. And scientists can think with both sides of the brain. That's how we got Tesla.
Yeah, and I think, Tesla is easily one of the most intelligent people that's
well, let's
been on this
not get
earth.
off the track. So let's
Okay.
get back to the boogeyman. Have you ever had a sleep paralysis? And if someone out
Yes.
there in the audience has, please call in.
Yes, I have, absolutely, many times.
Okay, so you had no will of your own. Your will was completely taken away from you.
Not only that, but there was I don't know if person is the right word, but there was something there. And I couldn't move. It's happened multiple times. It's also happened to my sister. And
So what is it? Is it aliens? What is it? You're into this. What do you think?
honestly, I don't know.
How come you read all these books and go to all these festivals and expos, but you're not researching something that actually grabbed a hold of you?
Oh, don't get me wrong. I've researched it. It's just that I've heard so many different opinions that it's hard for me to relate to one or the other. One of them, well, I will tell you, one of them was very unmistakably my great-grandmother, who lived to be...
the dead.
Who
sure.
lived... Yeah, she lived to be 99. I met her a couple of times when I was a kid. And you know what's funny about that is it wasn't just... My sister saw her in her paralyzed state the same night that I did. So,
See? Now that was real.
Yeah.
But it was not third dimensional, and a scientist would put you away and medicate you on voodoo drugs to tell him that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So obviously we have an opposition in our society that will take us out of the game if we talk about this stuff too much.
Yeah, but another thing that Dennis just kind of reminded me of in the chat room is alchemy. I mean, if you really...
I just mentioned alchemy.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it, which is why he mentioned it. And yeah, I just want to take a step back and let people and or just encourage people to really look into real alchemy. I'm not talking about, you know,
it's called hermetic alchemy.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
not
not
led to gold in a physical sense. That's the problem. People don't understand that we are talking in metaphors because it's the other side of the mind that's been repressed.
Yeah, we're not talking about this whole bullshit, you know, turning lead into gold alchemy. No, we're talking about real alchemy, which
The lead represents the soul that is unawakened, okay, in separation. And the gold represents the rainbow light body of Solomon's temple.
Yeah, and a lot of people most people don't know that. They as soon as they hear the lead to gold thing, that's as far as they look into it, like, oh, this is bullshit. But if you
alchemy happens within, but you kind of have to have a master spirit guide to take you through it. Alchemy isn't for everyone. My spirit guide is Hermes Trismegistus, the father of alchemy, and he has brought me here to teach alchemy through what he taught me. It's a living teaching. I had to go through 14 years of training and craziness to do this alchemy within myself, but it was only under a master teacher guide. Right. And Hermes is available. I mean, he's, you know, he'll say hi to you if you say hi to him.
I've had 3 different readings, and they all told me before this lifetime I was not on Earth until 100 years before 100 BC.
Because, well, I'm a professional, and I will tell you, if you skipped all those lifetimes, then you reached enlightenment already, and you chose not to come back. You took the shorter vehicle, the short bus, which is not the Bodhisattva vow.
Well, then why am I back here right now? Because I don't. Process. Well, then why am I here right now? Because I don't remember.
You came back this time to complete the process, and I've heard you bemoan that you are human this time, but the more you get into yourself, your mind, and your third eye, all of those questions will be answered. They're not in books, and they're not at expos.
Images of broken light which dance before me like a million eyes. They call me on and on across the universe.
Everybody is getting more telepathic, and that's one of the videos I put out recently. It's all about telepathy, and that's why the mask of evil can come off, because more people through ultraviolet rays are becoming more psychic. Ultraviolet is the third eye color, and we're going to be getting more of that on this planet. Therefore, we'll be able to see who's good and who's bad, and we won't have to cover up everything anymore. It'll be obvious.
Right, and by the way, okay, we've got a caller coming in.
But I would like to ask your Corinne, in regards to how she feels on, I call it the gathering, or we're coming into remembrance of who we are and where we came from, in regards to human conscious shifting at this moment. Like we all chose, some of us chose to be here. I feel that way, and yeah, this is a big point in human. You know,
evolution.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you say your name's Dennis?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Dennis Dyke. He's in the chat room, and I'm very glad you asked that, Dennis, because I have a follow-up question.
Well, let me answer it. So I get you, Dennis. And so the gathering, and that reminds me of Highlander. There can be only one, but that's just fun. So are we remembering ourselves? Yes. In the blog I just posted, you can get to the revive. We are reviving. We're coming back in consciousness. We're going to remember all of our past lives and understand the fourth dimension and the darkness and the light. But the thing is, people don't understand, it's also in my blog, the fourth dimension is merging with the third, which means all the ghosts and everything. What you don't realize is your grandma could have an incarnation right here, right now. And her ghost self, along with, if she has 100 ghost selves, are all going to be stuffed into that one personality, that one person on this planet. This is a merge between the two dimensions of dream and reality. And that's why we get telepathy, and it's ultraviolet. But I'm telling you, the darkness is coming to Earth, but only because we'll be able to see it. It's always been here, and then it gets cleansed. It's like the Fifth Element. Watch the movie again.
Okay. Well, I've seen the Fifth Element, like, I don't know how many times. You know what, Corinne? The Fifth Element actually is consciousness. You know, because that's
Akasha, I agree. And it's about all of us getting our souls back, putting our ego down and getting our souls back.
Right. See, okay, I
I'm with you, brother.
I apologize for over talking, but ego for me is just, we are unique human beings, and ego gives us that individuality.
In my opinion, that's character. We're individual characters, and we
Right.
love our individuality. And so, yeah,
Right.
rage against the dying of the light. We created these characters. These are our God selves. Love
Right.
them. Be proud of them.
Right. Yeah. I you know, people say kill your ego. You know,
Heal
no,
your
I
ego.
nurture mine. You know, I nurture because it gave me my individuality.
Of course, it is the Western mind that makes it wrong. It's the way we've been taught and entrained. But once you break all those bubbles, then you get to the truth, and you get those real eyes and those real ears, which you obviously have.
Thank you. It's just awesome, Corinne. It's because I see this occurring so much more because,
Yes.
you know, I have tight
happening.
circles. Oh, yeah, it is. It's like right on top of us now. Okay.
Ever since we had Trump become president, I was like, I don't live in the real world anymore. We have Biff from Back to the Future as president. This is not real. We're in fairy tale land.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? And now we've only got a couple of minutes to our next
Thank
break.
Yeah, thank you
Now-
for taking my call. Thank you.
Caller, you're on the air. Who art thou?
Hi, this is Susan.
No,
Hello, can you hear me okay?
no, you sound good. You sound good.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I'm reporting live from my bed right now.
Welcome, Susan.
So, hi, honey buns.
Susan's my
How are
astrologer, y'all. She's the only one I trust.
Oh, well, that's a great compliment.
Does that imply that you don't trust me?
Are you an astrologer, Gigi?
Not maybe. I mean, no.
It's all about you, Gigi.
What's going on, Susan?
Oh, not much. I'm just enjoying the show, and, you know, I've had many, many hours of conversations with Corinne on these very topics, and it's nice to hear her get out there and talk to other people about it. So, yeah.
She
I'm
helps
enjoying
bring it down to earth for me because I'm so, above the chessboard. She helps ground it for me in reality and say, this is what you're saying in a different way, and I love it.
Well, I
Right.
think...
Well, I'm Capricorn, and we're very practical. You know, I love to go up in the celestial realms with Corinne, but I also like to know what does it actually mean in practical terms, and how can I apply it, in the quote real world.
Didn't you put in the chat that you had a shadow experience?
I did. I actually had
Yeah.
a couple of them. I had an experience where I was standing in the doorway of my bedroom looking at my body sleeping in bed and saw this gray mist creeping up the side of my bed like it was coming to check me out, my vacant. I was like, hell no. And next thing you know, I'm back in my body, and I was paralyzed for a little while, and I wasn't afraid, but I was trying to, scream, like throat screaming, like, no! And I, started to wake up and regain control of my body. But, yeah, it was pretty freaky. That was the first time, I think. And then the second time, there was this shadow thing at the foot of my bed, and I swear, it's like I was laying there, I was asleep, I was paralyzed, but I could literally feel it jiggling at the foot of my bed, like pushing on my mattress, jiggling.
Yikes.
Because I was trying to astral project. I was trying to leave my body, and I started to go, and I'm floating in the air over a street. Wasn't a place that I knew, but I was trying to go out, and it jiggled my bed like to bring me back into my body, and it was kind of weird. Yeah.
You bring up
and so
that's an excellent point, that you're talking about your Merkaba or your soul car or your soul orb of light was leaving your body, and that's when the presence was trying to stop you.
Right, exactly. And again, I didn't feel afraid. I felt indignant, like this fucker is messing with what I'm trying to do here. And I I felt myself again screaming, and just by force of will, I willed myself out of the sleep paralysis. But it was a little weird, I have to say.
And many people don't have that force of will, literally can't get out of it. Even if I called upon Jesus many times, it didn't work.
No. Yeah, I've heard of people doing that, and the thing just laughs at them.
So we are talking about the fourth dimension, and all our community is, if they aren't already astral projecting, they're about to. And the first level you hit is the bad neighborhood, I call it, of the fourth dimension, the bardo. And that's why we're putting great emphasis on this, because everybody's about to see it in one way or another.
And so I thought that was going to happen last year. So
why? Who told you that? I didn't.
Nobody told me that. That's what I thought. That's what I felt. But
well,
obviously,
this whole grand thing began with the eclipse that, of course, Susan knows a lot more about, the Great American Eclipse of August 2017.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've actually been looking a lot lately at how the planet Uranus is triggering certain events, and you see certain things play out in the collective. That's when we see these sudden shocking things going on, like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. And it's when, the everyday person is getting red pilled and seeing, oh my God, that's really the way things work. Meanwhile, those of us who are sitting here, and we've been eating our popcorn on the sidelines, just waiting for everybody else to catch up, right?
Yes.
But the planet Uranus is very instrumental in the collective awakening, and how we are all starting to perceive energies. And there's a lot of aspects coming up with Uranus that are highly significant. And I know after that eclipse last spring, see, the planet Uranus has been in the sign of Aries. So Aries is a fire sign, so it's more related to spirit and energies. And it's roughly 7 years that it's been in Aries. And so, we've all learned a lot more about how energy works and how our own energetic bodies work. So we're becoming more aware. But in last spring, Uranus went for a short time into the sign of Taurus, which is an earth sign. It's physical. It rules the five senses. So it really became more apparent to people. And I know for myself, the day that Uranus went into Taurus, there was a big thunderstorm that rolled in, and I felt it in my body. I felt energy in my body, but it was very, very notable. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Susan. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I traveled out of my body, and not even for any good reason. I was just trying to get a Gatorade, but you know what I mean? Like that.
Haven't you ever astral projected to the toilet and then woke up with a wet bed?
No, I haven't.
No, I did.
Tripped me out to this day, and like I said, I've never really told anybody about that.
Well, I think you did bilocate.
I can only imagine that I did, but it's
a rare occurrence in life. It does happen, though.
I think that was kind of the premise, and it kind of seemed like a dream until I melded back into myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, Gigi, what I was going to say is, from an astrological perspective, at that time, you would have been having certain transits to your chart that would have triggered that, because, the chart is the blueprint for the experience that the soul is going to have in this physical lifetime.
Do you understand that, Gigi? That's the most important point of astrology right there.
That does make a lot of sense, yeah.
Yes, and so it's not everyone is going to have these experiences. Not everyone is going to have their third eye open. Not everyone is going to have their kundalini rise. Not everyone is built for that. Not everyone's here for it, and that's fine. But it will be shown in your birth chart if you have any kind of tendency towards astral projection. It's going to be shown in your chart, and it's going to be triggered at a certain time. It's like a clock. It's like a timer. So you have your birth chart, but of course the planets keep moving, and when they make certain angles or conjunctions to the planets that show that this is going to happen, or you have, earned these things from past lifetimes, because it is earned, these things will be triggered. So the birth chart, the transits of the planets as they move around the zodiacal wheel are going to be triggered at certain times. So while we have the planets making certain aspects and angles to one another, those people who are slated for these types of awakenings are going to awaken at a certain time, which is why you can only do so much to try to educate people and help them to understand, but if they don't have it in their chart, they're not going to get it. It's like Corinne talks about in Buddhism, they have the principle of the householders. That's what some people are just here to live their 3D life, and they're never going to get it.
Right. Yeah.
It's just the way it is. And other people are built for it, and that's what they're here for, and it's going to happen to them, but it happens at a certain time. So while you can have these particular qualities and have a tendency to, have your psychic centers more open than another person, and you can work on it to develop those things to, cooperate with it, it's going to happen at a certain time.
Thank you, Susan. That was awesome.
Yeah, Susan,
yeah,
can you...
I'm lipstick everywhere.
Hey, Corinne, how about a prayer to end off this show for IMBOLG?
All right, so we are fighting the good fight here in this area, this room that we have created this evening, and it is a place that is not a place and a time that is not a time. We are in between the worlds, and we cast the light from our hearts and our pineal gland. We cast the light into the now and into the future, the flame of Bridget, and that is the flame of knowledge, the flame of the Vestal Virgins, all the way back to the Olympics, the great flame of knowledge. May it spread throughout the land, and may ignorance be a thing of the past. So mote it be, and blessings.
Abahu Purushakaram Shankrachakrasi Om Shanti Om Shanti 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 Shanti